Hello everyone, and welcome to this BITC Responsible Business Awards webinar workshop, specifically looking at our two international categories. That's the UPS International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award, supported by DFID, and also the Unilever International Global Development Award, supported by Business Fights Poverty. We have this webinar running for around about an hour and a half. We're going to start off with both myself and my colleague Danielle Cox, Programme Manager for International Disaster Relief and Resilience, who are going to speak about the best practice for starting your applications, looking through some good examples, some bad examples of applications that we've seen in the past. And we're going to finish off with some lovely presentations from both our sponsors, that's Unilever and UPS, and also from a couple of previous winners from our awards. They are the IDT Labs and also the Philippine Water Institute. So if I just go through the agenda, let's see if this works straight away. Fab. We're starting off with introduction and welcome. So welcome to everybody who has signed up to register for this. We really appreciate you taking the time to consider both of our awards this year. We're then going to go through some videos of previous winners, both from the Global Development Award and from the International Disaster Relief Award. We're then going to be going specifically through, again, as I say, some of the applications of which ones did well in previous years, which ones not so well, top tips for why that's the case. And then we're going to hear from our sponsors and our previous winners to hear some of the reasons why they applied, why they're supporting us, and also why they won the particular award, top tips. So the first thing we're going to do is go through some videos from last year. Danielle, did you want to say hello to the group? This is Danielle, Programme Manager, International Disaster Relief.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. If you have any specific International Disaster Relief Award questions, do feel free to contact me, and both of our contact details are there at the end, but I'll be going back and forth with Lydia throughout this presentation to go through the applications and hopefully give you some top tips.
One of the things just to mention in terms of housekeeping, and thank you for that, Danielle, is we will be inviting people to ask questions throughout the webinar. You'll see, or you should see at the bottom of your screen, a little chat item. You can message us there, and then what we'll do is we'll collect those questions and address them in particular points across the webinar. So if you do have particular things, either about good or bad practice in applications, or some questions for some of our speakers, and then do put those chats in there. Also, we'll be recording this webinar and then hopefully sharing it with you all as in the next few days. So after we've gone through that, let's just make a step back before we have a look at the people who did win last year, and go into a little bit deeper information about what awards we're both going to be speaking about on this webinar, and what they mean and why you should apply. So if I hand over to Danielle.
Okay, so as Lydia has already mentioned, the Disaster Relief and Resilience Award is sponsored by UPS and supported by the Department for International Development. This award recognises businesses' unique contribution to addressing international disasters. We define international disasters by a disaster where the government or the state has called out for additional help, and somebody like the UN OCHA or DEC, the Disaster Emergency Committee, has also launched an appeal. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's an international disaster to your specific location, that has to be international, but that the disaster is classed as an international disaster. And it covers all areas of the disaster management cycle, so whether you are preparing for, responding to, or recovering from disasters during your relief efforts. We just want to know about the programme and how you've helped that community. I'll pass back to Lydia to discuss the Global Development Award.
So we've been running the Unilever Global Development Award, supported by Business Fights Poverty, for several years now. Unilever have supported it for last year, and also we're doing for next year as well, and supported by Business Fights Poverty, who work with all different organisations across the world looking at how they can actually address the SDGs. And Unilever the same, do huge amounts on this agenda, and we'll be hearing from Steve Payne, who leads on that, a bit later on. But a bit more about the award itself. The award really recognises organisations who tackle the Sustainable Development Goals, so that's one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals, and really integrate those programs within their business as usual. And you'll see that in a few of the examples that we show later on. We're looking for organisations who are embracing and leading the way on sustainable business models. So looking at their businesses and saying, actually, where can we provide the biggest amount of impact, both socially and environmentally, that look at the SDGs internationally, and then use that as a way to change the way that they're working in business so it's better for society, the environment, and actually the business themselves. One of the things just to mention with the Unilever Global Development Award is that it is a very competitive award, so the more you get in, just like the IDR award as well, the more you do now, download those application forms, take a look through it and get started now. Really important that you begin compiling those. But also we ask or we suggest that individuals apply if they've had a program running for a couple of years with this one. And the reason for that is because obviously it takes quite a bit of time for you to collect and measure the impact that you're making in various different societies across the world, wherever your programs may be, and also then be able to evidence that within the awards applications themselves. So we do recommend that the programs are a couple of years old, where possible. Did you have anything similar like that you wanted to share, Danielle, or shall we move on to our lovely videos?
No, I think we'll cover, as Lily has just said, it's really important to show the impact and the business impact as well that you're having, but we'll pick that up as we go through the application form so you can see where throughout the application you really need to evidence that. So if I move on, we've got some videos from last year's winners, and we can share these slides after as well so that you can have these links for yourselves. And we'll show you what our winning award entry looks like. The first one we're going to show is from our award winner for the Unilever Global Development Award. I didn't say that very well, so I'll start it again. The winner last year for the Unilever Global Development Award, supported by Business Fights Poverty, that was Manila Water. Now, Manila Water, you'll see in the video that we're going to be sharing, that they were able to work with communities within Manila who were having issues with access to water. They're individuals who were unable to actually pay for the water themselves, and that meant that they were finding quite difficult and potentially life-threatening ways of trying to find water for themselves and their families. And so what Manila Water did was they worked and consulted with the communities in question and also partners within the city to figure out a way that they could reach these individuals and access them, provide them with accessible, clean drinking water for the long term. So let's see, I'm hoping that this link works. Clicking on it now and see what happens. Taking just a minute.
The Water for the Community program is actually a response to a business problem. When we started in 1997, we had a very high system loss, as we call it. 2/3 of the water that we produce, we lose. 50% of the losses were due to a lot of illegal connections. And these illegal connections are found mostly in informal settlements. We had to provide water for these communities, for these poor people, in legal needs.
The way they went about it, on one side, they got water meters in, got some people to let support, the others feed water. I think that's holistic look was incredibly impressive.
Initially, of course, there was resistance. People are used to getting free water. We had to talk to them. We had to tell them the features, the benefits, the advantages of having legal connections. Having bought into the program, then try to offer as much concession as we can give them. Make sure that what they're going to pay will be affordable. And we had to talk to neighborhood organizations, even neighborhood toughies. We need to organize the community.
And they've done it for many years. So this isn't a one-off project. It's gone on and on and built their success in a very commendable way.
It's about empowering communities. It's about restoring the dignity of individuals. We know that there are a lot of other countries in Asia or even in Africa who are wanting for water. There are solutions. And the Water for the Community program provides a solution which other countries may be able to adopt and replicate.
I know that the connection problems with that may be a little bit difficult, but I do hope that that gives you a sense of the kind of programs that we have winning the Unilever Global Development Award with last year, and the sort of calibre of applications that we get. We'll go into that in more detail shortly. I'm going to pass over to Danielle, who's now going to speak about the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award, sponsored by UPS.
Okay, so back over to me. I did warn you about the tag teaming. So last year, for the first time ever, we actually had 2 winners. So every year we have to assess whether or not the entrants that have come through are large or small, and that's part of the non-marked section of the application form. And we will award a large company winner, but we have the option to also award a small company winner. So last year we had 2 very different entries that came through, but equally, obviously, both as fantastic as one another. So PLDT is the Philippine Long Distance Telephone Company, and they revived the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, and it's fantastic that we've got Butch joining us today, who will talk through that application process with you and what it's meant to win since this time last year, I guess. And we also had IDT Labs, who had a fantastic entry responding to the Ebola crisis, where the payroll system basically just didn't exist in Sierra Leone. And so a small startup company of, I think, 8 people created this new payroll system that allowed the healthcare workers to be paid and have monitoring systems against their names with date of birth and whatnot, which meant that the healthcare system didn't collapse on itself. And again, it's fantastic that we've got Sultan Narati joining us from IDT Labs later today. So if I start with PLDT, again, apologies if the video doesn't come across. Hopefully the sound does, and you'll still get some take-home messages. Hopefully this is going to work nicely.
No human being should experience that type of thing. When we were there, we found bodies out in the streets. It was really, really horrible to watch.
The key thing is that for us, we realized that the private sector is not just a donor, but it needed to be an active player in terms of disaster management.
The Philippines, they were overwhelmed by the disaster of the typhoon. And this was a great example of companies working together.
The co-chairmen of our foundation are the 2 biggest rivals in the country. And so it's actually very nice because it sets a good example for everybody to follow.
The government reached out to us. They wanted to restart many of the small businesses that have been destroyed by Haiyan. They selected the entrepreneurs who they thought were most likely to succeed. They trained them, and we equipped them. These are actually businesses like dressmaking, sidewalk cafeterias, food vending, people with simple dreams.
Okay, and then in addition, we had IGT Labs, who I'll play now. There we go.
10 kids with the average age of 24 essentially saved their entire country's healthcare system from complete collapse.
The emergency response workers, they were not being paid, and there were problems with their funds, so they actually were about to strike.
I had become the de facto technical advisor to the entire Ebola response effort in Sierra Leone, and I was told in no uncertain terms that we had 6 weeks to come up with a working solution to pay potentially up to 35,000 people $11 million every 2 weeks. And there was a very, very small company in Freetown of software developers, and they essentially dropped all of their other work to work on building a mobile money-based payment system.
So this company actually developed a solution that other companies have mentioned that they could probably take up to 3 years to develop. They actually developed this in a matter of weeks.
There are only 12 surnames in the country. The only way to actually tell people apart very often with the same name, because people don't know their birthdays right, is biometrically. No one had ever implemented a biometric ID system in the country.
They saw that they needed to do this for their country. And the country was about to collapse, and they needed to do this.
So you can see just how different the approaches were for our two winners, but equally impressive. So if I now take you on, so what we're going to do now is go through the application itself. There are two, so the structure to both applications is very similar, so we're going to go through it that way, but we'll point out where things are different and offer our advice separately as we go through. So the first part is the non-scored section, where you enter in your business details and your program details, and some other details that will help us to do some trend analysis. So for the Global Development Award, which you'll see here has been summarized to GDA, so if you see GDA throughout the rest of this, then that refers to the Global Development Award, and IDR and R will refer to the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award, just so you're aware. So on this slide, this is covering the first couple of pages that, as I mentioned, are your non-scored section, and this is for us to get a sense about what it is that your business does, what it is that your program's trying to achieve, and to help sort of set the tone and tell us a story. So we use a lot of this data to go towards our case studies. If you've come across our work in the past, we release shortlists that go into the Financial Times, and we also use these case studies throughout our own publications. So it really helps us to share things and give a sense of who you are. So if you've got any extra data, if you've got links or anything like that, please do also share them within the section and within your application form. So the two major differences between the Global Development Award and the International Disaster Relief Award in the non-scored section are going to be that the International Disaster Relief Award, International Disaster Resilience and Relief Award is going to be asking you about your disaster relief work. So we ask questions specifically about where the disaster was that you were responding to. If you've got a program that responds to multiple, then do tick different boxes. Tell us about what your program is called, how many people you think were affected, or how many people were affected by the disaster. This is data that if you don't have to hand, you can often find on the UN OCHA's website or disaster relief, relief net, in fact, disaster relief. Whereas the Global Development Award will ask you questions around which sustainable development goals you're responding to. You might as well be responding to multiple ones, but if you're specifically discussing a project or a program that's targeting one, please tell us that and then give us some overarching information about other projects and programs that you're working on. you got anything to add there, Olivia?
I think the other thing, just to add with the Global Development Award applications, that they're also interested in how much it's integrated not only with your business but also with your supply chain as well. So not that it is something where it's marked, as you see, it's on the non-scored section, but we're really interested as much as which SDGs do you feel that you're tackling and how you feel that's integrated in your own business. How much of your supply chain are you working with to actually bring those different programs to life? That's to give us a sense of benchmarking of what best practice looks like on this agenda. Obviously, at least from our perspective, you are a sustainable business model and looking to achieve that specifically again within the programs and initiatives you're doing on the SDGs here. Then your supply chain will have some involvement within the programs that you're working in. So although it's a non-scored section for both the awards on here, they do make a difference in terms of us being able to get a real picture and understanding of what it is actually that your program is about, the key messages about your social benefits, your business benefits, which we'll go into in more detail later on in the application, and supporting statements as a top line general introduction into what your application is.
I believe that both of these sections have something for a quote from your CEO. Mm-hmm. So it's just showing the support from the top as well as the bottom of the sort of food chain, as it were. So as I mentioned just a minute ago, we feature this as well as in the shortlist and the award publicity that goes out. We use it from our own perspective in the international team and the international campaign. So we featured case studies in our guidance for business and in our research publication, the Business's Unique Contributions 1 and 2. And we also put bits on our website. So we've had videos recently from our businesses that we work closely with talking about how they're building sustainable business models, and we feature case studies from people that have come through from the awards to showcase really best practice. So please do share as much information as possible, but this is the non-scored section. So if I start then with the scored section, probably the part that everybody is most interested in, our top tip really is to go through your application form and then look back. So within the guidance document, you'll see the mark scheme, and that's what we're going to do today. So reread what you've written and assess how you would mark that from, if you can, non-objective point of view, non-biased point of view. So what we've done today is we've picked out a good and a not so good application that have come through, or a winning entry and a non-shortlisted entry, so that you can spot the differences, because sometimes they are very subtle, and then we'll explain what it is to be excellent. So section 2 is the first scored section. And to be excellent, you have to show that in addition to your sort of previous criteria about what it is that the program is, there's a clear explanation of the specific challenges within international disaster relief and resilience that's being tackled. So from the Global Development Award, it would be that there's a clear explanation as to the challenge that it is that you've set yourself to meet those sustainable development goals. And really what the business case is for your business responding to this, and then how that ties in with your company aims and values, and how you've evidenced the approach that you've chosen, so whether or not there have been any KPIs or metrics that you've set. So in the first part, we've got company X or company C. We'll go through and have a little look at them both. I'm not going to expect you to read them all right now, because I'm aware that it will be very small on your screens. So I'll pick out some of the things that make X or C the winner or lower down on the scale. Okay, so company X. You can see from here that they work with a number of different humanitarian organizations. They've targeted a specific program, but they've talked about their wider program as well. And the specific program has come from an employee based in Newcastle. They are talking about their children's safe drinking water program and what that means to them. It's quite high level at this point, but they share with us the details of what's going on. They share with us a person that's being held accountable and responsible for this project, and they've set about the sort of targets that they're looking for. Company C is saying the exact response, or the exact disaster they've responded to, how many people were affected, and why it was that they responded to this catastrophe, so what it means to the business. So for them in particular, they decided they were going to set up another foundation to help drive this forward. They've worked with other businesses within the sector, and they have explained what the baseline was and what the reason is. So they're saying here that without doing this, their revenues and their customer base were flatlining, so they had to step in and do something to rebuild it. So you get the clear example of what the business perspective is and what the need was, and as a result, what the benefits are going to be by stepping in and doing this work. So from here, Company C scored 4 points because they gave us clear examples demonstrating the company aims and values, why they've chosen this approach, and which disaster they've responded to, whereas Company X talks about the target groups of the program. There is some evidence of KPIs in the form that they've told us who is being held accountable, but they've not actually told us how they're measuring that or why they've chosen those particular measurements. So if you've got any questions about this, we're going to have a short break between section 3 and section 4. So please do type in any questions or into the chat or into the questions functionality, and then I'll come through and capture them just before I hand over to Lydia. So the next section that you'll have to complete is the management and engagement section, and this is broken up into 3.1 and 3.2. So here we are looking for excellent marks, so to score top marks. The management and delivery process are well planned and executed, so there's been a clear strategy for your project or your program. The types and levels of resources are fully appropriate to the scale and objectives of the program. Again, this ties back to your strategy, that you've really thought about it and shown how it's going to be effectively managed to achieve those results. And that there are outstanding systems to monitor and review this and make sure that you are continuously improving on what you're doing, and I suppose in essence at some point hoping to become sustainable and fully embed this into your business. So if we have a look again, we've got Company X and Company C. So Company X are talking about the money that they have invested into this project, the personnel that they've invested into this, the people, again, that they're working with and how they've developed that relationship, the number of programs and emergencies that they've worked on since 2011. With regards to management, they talk about a coordinator, so there's somebody that's got a specific role within the organisation, and the overall strategy that that person is responsible for and who they are accountable to. So in this case, it's the CEO and the board of directors. And then they've talked about their targets. So they've given us a broad aim here about what the business is responding to. So they've said that they respond to all large-scale disasters around the world, and recognise that all disasters are unique, which is a fantastic statement to have from a program manager in international disaster relief, but doesn't quite give us the information that we were asking for to be excellent in terms of direct KPIs or targets and showing how that strategy has been put in place. So then from company C, you can see that there's a clear management strategy. I know you can't see the details on your screens, but there's a hierarchy been put in place about who's in charge, who has specific roles and responsibilities within this application. And that's really useful from an assessment point of view, because it answers the question to meet those 4 marks. Again, with the investment, they've put down how much it is, so they've actually quantified it into pounds to help our understanding, although if you work in dollars or any other currency, we can work that out, so don't worry about doing that for us. And they've also stated about any other assets that they might have used. So here they've talked about seconded executives, office space, human resources and things like that. So please do take that into account, because it might not always be a financial contribution. We are looking for people that are using their core competencies, skills, services and products. So the investment that you've made may well be not wasting materials and things like that. And as I mentioned, they talk about meeting targets. So there's a clear strategy that they talk about. They've got a board that's being held accountable for goals and programs and their budget and how they manage this. So whilst company X has a good understanding here, it's not giving us the exact detail to meet the full marks. Does that make sense? Okay, and as I mentioned, section 3 is broken up into 2 sections. So there's management and there's engagement. So the second part is focusing on engagement and what that means. And here we're really looking for how you've embedded that throughout your company. So from the Global Development Award perspective, we want to see that, as well as sort of clear leadership from your senior management team, that people within the organisation really feel like they own this and they're driving that. So to get top marks here, you need to evidence that there's exemplary levels of leadership and commitment and action. So there's a demonstration above and beyond what your business would ordinarily do. We're looking for business-wide employee engagement and commitment from your external stakeholders as well. So as Lydia mentioned, we're looking at how you engage with your supply chain. And then we are also looking for evidence of outstanding management structures, so to target how you are meeting the Sustainable Development Goals. They are goals, so we would like to meet them one day. And
we will, together with all businesses doing it, we will.
And we want to see how you are doing that work with external stakeholders, what the business has learnt, and how you feed that back. So our 2 examples here, where we've blocked out the different companies, anything might give them away. You can see that the entry on the left has got a fantastic initiative where they have the employees of the organisation really own and run this, and they're in charge, and it's part of their own job descriptions, and they get to drive this forward, whereas the company on your right, or company B, talks about how it's delivered through a training system. So it's, whilst there's a clear sort of drive from the business to deliver this, and that is fantastic to see, you haven't got both the top-up and top-down and bottom-up engagement throughout the organisation that we're really looking for in this engagement piece. So to see how it is that you're spreading it throughout the organisation.
Just to add a couple of points on that, Danielle, thank you. It's always, we've been talking for quite a while. Take a breath of fresh air. With the application on the left, you have one clear narrative. You have as Daniel said, you've got a drive from the employees at the bottom throughout various different business units. It's really integrated within their actual job descriptions as part and parcel of what it is that they do. And it's also something where they have a management committee that looks throughout for the exec, that look at the finance and the budgeting of these particular particular programs that works alongside various different stakeholders, so people like the local government or community groups, and there's a real sense of ownership and partnership in that as well. So it isn't something where there's a particular, everybody knows their roles within it, but it isn't something where there's an external organisation really driving that programme with financial support or short-term employee volunteering opportunities from the actual business. The business really is owning and driving that partnership and that programme going forward. And I think the one on the right-hand side, you'll notice with employees, and they, as Danielle said, they have mandatory training. And then when you look through some of the the points here, they're talking about one-off employee volunteering days, and there's no particular ownership across all levels. It seems like, if anything, it's sort of centrally driven from one team and not necessarily something that's embraced and appreciated by across the organisation itself. And although it talks slightly about the partnerships that are in the programme, it doesn't necessarily give real evidence of how those organisations are embracing that programme going forward, or really have a say in terms of being consulted on the initiative, being asked to do particular things, or looking together to evaluate what's been done so far, to then see how they can improve and move forward together. So I think that was everything I had on that particular slide.
Okay, we're just going to take a very, very short question break. So if you have got any questions, I'm just going to unmute you all. So do feel free to ask us any questions if you have them at this point. Oh, apparently I can't unmute you all.
Having difficulty unmuting, so what we'll do is, if you do have questions, there's a chat function at the bottom of your webinar screen. So if you're able to type any questions at the bottom there, then that would be fab. As you're doing that, one of the things just to share is the different breakdowns of the sections themselves in terms of where the weighting is in the scoring of the marking. So you'll find with the purpose of the application, that's around 10%, I think, of the actual marks given overall. So a decent amount to spend on the words that are there, but I think that when we look through the various other ones, when we're looking at management and engagement, so that's 3.1, that's about 30% of the application score marks and the weighting that we're looking for there. And I'm just going through to find 3.2, and I think that is where... Oh, I don't have that in front of me, Danielle. I'm so sorry. We'll just get back to you with that in a brief tick. I think that's worth a similar amount. I think it's about 30%, but we're just having a quick look. So that's number 3.30%.
So 30% for all of section 3 and then 60% for section 4.
Yeah, so 30% for all of section 3 and 60% for all of section 4.
Okay, we have one question, and it is, can one company apply for both awards? Of course you can. There are awards for two very different things, and we would welcome applications for both awards if you've got programs in both areas, so please do. If we've got no other questions, I'm going to hand over to Lydia to go through section 4. I think the top tip here from what I've gone through, and I know will continue, is that you can see there's not a lot of difference in what's been written down here. It's often the language and the small nuances that you pick out, and so it can often be a fantastic idea to share what you've written with other people that you work with in the organisation, or with your humanitarian partners or partners that you work with, to get a non-biased view of what it is that you've written, and really tell you whether or not they think that you're getting full marks, because it could just be a small thing that you're missing that gets you from a 2 to a 4. Okay, I'll hand you over.
Thank you, Danielle. And as we say, please feel free to write any questions you may have in that chat below for question 4, and we'll be answering those questions just after I've completed my brief or hopefully brief presentation about the question 4 overall. So question 4 is looking at impacts and achievements, and that is worth 60% of your overall score. So it's really something worth gathering all the data, quantitative data, all the quotes you may want to share from either your partners or from your beneficiaries themselves, maybe having some photos in there really to bring it to life. One of the things that we encourage individual companies to do is to really think about the story that you're trying to tell within your application itself. So, and I hope that comes across in the way that the applications are structured. So you're talking about what is the reason why you're doing this, where did it come from, then how are you managing it, and then what's the ultimate achievement and impact on that. And we should be able to see, the assessors and the judges should be able to see a clear line of, you know, a building story, a building picture of what the program is and what it's able to do for stakeholders involved. And as I said, but I'll mention it again, we're going to go through the question 4 now, which is impacts and achievements, worth 60% of the overall score. So if you're looking for a great score, as you can see in our guidance here, you're looking for something where the approach to social benefits is exceptional, and there is clear evidence, both qualitative and quantitative evidence, that you are meeting positive long-term and broad impacts with the actual program. So we're looking at things about, it's not necessarily just we're not looking at outputs, we're not looking at the number of volunteers or the amount of money that you've spent. That able to give us a picture and a scale of your initiatives, but not necessarily what actually you've been able to change in terms of culture change, policy change, you know, the impact that you've had on individual people's lives. And I'm sure if you've been involved in our BITC awards processes before, that isn't a message that's new to you, but it's often something that people fall up on. I think if you're measuring, people can sometimes have they're going to measure the number of hours that you've done with volunteering or the amount of money that you shared. But actually we're looking at, okay, if you're doing an educational program, can you show the educational attainment before and after of students once your program has taken place? Can you show in terms of employee engagement that you have feedback with showing that the individuals involved feel more loyal to your brand, that they feel that they've shared their skills, and that they feel more equipped to be able to do their role, and that sort of thing. So you're able to really demonstrate that there has been a clear impact with the social effect of your program and also the business effect of your program as well. So I've mentioned slightly about the really positive sides of them. I'm already sort of losing my thread of thought here on it. I've already talked about what it means if you get a 4, so really demonstrating you've had those policy changes, building capacity of your partners, that sort of thing, versus there really not being much statistical evidence of what it is that you're doing, a couple of bits about outputs, but nothing much more as a weak one. So if we have a look at the examples, this is an example of a winning application. I think they got about 4 for their application here. And you can really see within there they've got quantitative and qualitative impacts. So they talk about what problems their particular beneficiary group were having before, and now as a result of their interventions, what they're doing and what they're able to achieve now for those particular beneficiaries. And they've also shown that in evidence through quotes from beneficiaries. You can see a lovely one from Connie there. We've also got quantitative information as well, so 2 to 3 2/3 savings on what the beneficiaries were having to spend on connections beforehand. And then they also go into some environmental impacts as well. Not as much quantitative or qualitative there, but at least it's something they're appreciating. so you can see kind of, and it's got some lovely pictures there as well to really bring everything to life and to really show the impact that they're making. This is versus one that probably got about 2 last year for their award, for this particular section on looking at social benefits. You'll notice, the first thing that you'll probably notice is that they talk about lots of different initiatives on here. So they may have 4, maybe 5 titles of different standalone initiatives that they've been working on. And this was a theme that was running through all of their application, that they were sharing everything that they were doing and every SDG they were trying to go for, and so every initiative they were having. And the problem is with doing that is that you can't really, in the words available, show the real impact and the real management style of these particular programs. So that's the first thing that I would say about this particular application. I think you'll also see there aren't a huge amount of clear impacts either on here. There's quite a few numbers in terms of outputs instead. So the number of people who went on one-off volunteering days, the amount of water tanks they installed, but not necessarily going into what that meant for the parks that they were working with and for the beneficiaries themselves. Again, no clear before and after on these initiatives either. And if you have a look at the 2 awards, and I'm not saying that you need to fill everything in with pictures and quotes if you don't have them, but it definitely gives you a sense, and the assessors a sense, of how people are feeling and what people are saying of those who are involved and actually directly benefiting from these initiatives. So really bringing it to life, not through your own words, but through others, is always quite a good way of demonstrating what you're able to do. So if we move swiftly on to our second part of question 4, again, impacts and achievements, but this is looking at business benefits. Now, the business benefits, I think increasingly businesses are feeling happier about sharing the fact that it is improving bottom line, improving employee engagement, making them think differently about the products and services that they can create for varying markets internationally. It is okay to share that, and that is what we're looking for. The more information, the more quantitative, qualitative evidence that you can share with us about how this program is integrating into your business and making sure that your business is sustainable for the future is brilliant. So if we're looking at what an application is that has worth 4 marks, we've got strong, convincing and appropriate qualitative, quantitative evidence. We've got company has incorporated the learning from this program into wider business to increase business benefits. So I know that Danielle mentioned this earlier, we're looking at programs that are doing brilliant things now, but that because they're embraced by the business, it's something that they realise can impact on a variety of different things that they're doing going forward, and really is something that means that they're sustainable and the programme is sustainable, with opportunities to be able to develop it as well. So if I go into our first application here, you can our evidence here. The one on the left-hand side was our winning application out of the 2. This again would have scored about 4, whereas the one on the right probably got maybe 2, potentially borderline 3. With the one on the left, again, you can see that there are clear quantitative and qualitative evidence of what that program has meant for the organisation's bottom line. You can also see that there is it gives quite a good time scale on that as well, so you get a sense of how much time and resources has been put into this actual program, versus the second one here, where there's no particular quantitative information about what it's meant for their bottom line. They say here, Company B has been able to reduce not only its material waste but also its energy and water, but and with saving significant costs. There's no actual evidence that they provided other than them sharing that piece of information there. It would have been nice for the one on the right here to really show, if they do have their employees out and about doing things in their communities, what are their employees saying, if possible, about that opportunity? You know, how is it affecting their skills? How is it affecting the way that they're working and the loyalty that they feel within the organisation? And that's something that's a shame is missing there. So this, I would have been surprised if they scored it a 3. I'd more likely it scored a 2 on that particular one. I think what's nice about the one on the left as well is that it shows benefits at the on the bottom line, and also sort of when you're profit collecting, but also on the top as well. And it really kind of shows benefits at all levels of the organisation, both in terms of profits, but also in terms of what that means for how the organisation are running their programmes going forward. So that was 4.2. I'm just conscious of time because I've been really running over. So we're going to quickly go into 4.3. What makes, and this is the final bit before we go into the bit about the partner verification, what makes your programme exemplary? Now, this is a difficult one to answer because you've already thought about, well, I've done brilliant things in terms of social impact. I know it's really brilliantly managed and monitored and measured. I can really demonstrate the business initiatives. The reason that we have this in here is to really help you to solidify and to highlight those key points, those points that really drum home why is it that you're applying for this award and why is it that it's particularly great, and there's something unique about it that means that it's taking it up to the next level. So this is actually one that's taken from the International Disaster Relief Award, but there are similarities with the guidance as with the Global Development Award as well. So it's got an outstanding positive impact. It's potentially transformative in the way the company contributes to international disaster relief or global development. It's a huge scale. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's huge. You don't have to be a big company to apply, as we've shared, as Danielle shared, but it's a big scale in terms of the resources and the time and the investment of your employees and your management of your particular organisation and the size of that organisation. And I think the next thing, how organisations have really got big marks on this in previous ones is really showing that they're willing to collaborate and willing to really drive this agenda for their particular sectors or for their particular networks locally as well, that they're really changing the way the businesses are working with their communities and working on international disaster relief and being leaders within that. So when we have a look at these, the two here, you can see that on the left, again, the winning application, they've gone above and beyond to show how it's really helps them as an organisation to think differently about how they work with their customers and really think about what their relationships are with their particular communities, with the community groups that they're working with, and how they hope to do that going forward. The impact that it's made in terms of the amount of water that's being supplied and who it's being supplied to, all those different things. It's really unique to the particular organisation. And then on the right here, it taught the one that didn't do so well, probably again about 2 marks, shared that it's impacting on the company's footprint, that it focuses on environment, also on lean manufacturing and innovation, but not necessarily much proof of that, neither quantitative or qualitative, and that it says it's driving it as it helps employee engagement through teamwork, but something that we hoped would have been in previous would have been already mentioned in previous questions. It wasn't answers. It wasn't so much, and now they've sort of made a bit of a hint to it, but not necessarily given us any proof. Whew. So that was question 4, where 60% of your marks. Please, as I say, download that application now. Really have a look at those. Start collecting all the data you need to make it as sparkly and lovely and interesting to read, as much as really a read that really shows what you're able to do. The last bit is partner verification form. Now, am I doing this or are you doing this, Danielle? I can't remember.
I can give you a little breather if you want.
I've got some water. If anyone can see me now, I literally look like a red beetroot because I'm so red after doing all that talking. Apparently it's okay. But Danielle's going to go through partner verification.
Okay, so very quickly, the last part of your application is a verification that the projects that you've been working on with your partners actually did happen. And this is the case for both the Global Development Award and the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. So whether your partner has been a humanitarian organisation, a government organisation, or another business, please send this off to them as soon as possible so they can get it back and give us, again, a wonderful testimony so we can share that and share what you've been doing. And as Lydia said, please download the application form and let your partners know about this as soon as possible so it's not something that holds you up, because if you turn around to us on the 11th of February and say, oh, sorry, we were just waiting for this, unfortunately, we will not be able to accept your application. Okay, we've got 5 minutes for questions. So I've got one question that's come through quickly that's asking about how do you demonstrate your business case if your business wasn't necessarily responding through using your own business. This is you have to think quite creatively about this question with disaster relief. What we're trying to understand is where businesses have gone above and beyond a philanthropic approach. And you may have done this through various different means and for various different reasons. So something we've worked on with businesses in the past is identifying high-risk areas, and that might be something that inadvertently that was the reason why you responded to it. We know that one of our business members looks for involvement from 2 or more members of the organisation putting out a request to the team that's responsible for the humanitarian programme. So your business case might well be that you're just looking to drive engagement within your organisation, and then the data that you would get back from that would have to be a discussion with your HR department. So whilst I would love to believe that having a humanitarian programme in the organisation would reduce the amount of turnover your organisation has, in this day and age, I'm well aware that that's not true, but the reasons for leaving might well have changed. So looking at the exit interviews, reasons, whether or not the engagement in the organisation has increased, whether or not since launching the programme or different things that have come up, people within the organisation have spoken more positively about this, whether the press has been more positive about it. So increasing your brand awareness is often a big business case for businesses to respond to humanitarian crises. Hopefully that helps a little bit, but something else that we can offer after this is to go through and have one-on-one conversations with applicants. So in your specific case, we can go through your application for a half-an-hour session, and I can try and get back at you a little bit more to help you understand the specific area. We also had a question, I think we've answered it, about whether or not to target a programme or a specific project within your application, and as Lydia pointed out, being more specific really does help to drive the data and the outcomes a little bit better. So you're not just discussing the outputs, but also the outcomes, because the word count really is quite tight. And so being specific helps, but do build that picture for us.
I think that, yeah, that's definitely something to think about, particularly for the Unilever Global Development Award, because the companies that we work with, you do so much in terms of the social benefits that you can and the impact that you have within the communities that you're working in, and have overarching strategies, then missions and visions that really are at the heart of your businesses. But what that can often mean is that trying to pick something out of all of them can often be relatively difficult. But we do strongly suggest that you do that so that you can really show the impact that you're making to a specific community or communities with a programme that's around one or a couple of SDGs, and actually work from the bottom up to show how that is integrated into your mission, vision, and your management system, and then what that means for your overall business and how it fits in with your global mission and strategy. I suppose in some ways it's taking the application and flipping it on its head. So you start with the impact and then finish with the purpose at the end when you're thinking about what kind of story that you want to show. Does that cause a confusion, or does that sort of make sense when you're trying to think about that story line and being able to demonstrate the impact it's been creating? It's really about, you know, how have you changed people's lives within particular communities and worked on the sustainable development goals. A couple, you don't need to do all of them. A couple will be or one will be absolutely fine.
Okay, so now I'm sure you've had enough of us, and thankfully we have got some amazing presenters joining us. So I think first what we will do is go to Hans-Peter. Hans-Peter's from UPS. He
there we go.
He is the Director for International Humanitarian Supply Chain at the UPS Foundation, and UPS have been sponsoring us now for 2 years because they do some amazing work in the humanitarian space, and we are delighted that he's going to share with us his thoughts on the award and his top tips for your application.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure whether I'm visible here, but I hope it works out. If you only see my mouth or maybe my left eye, just let us know, and then we can change the settings a little bit. First of all, a brief overview. So what are we doing, and why, by the way, why are we sponsoring it? So now, UPS, the UPS Foundation is a leading global citizen, and since about 60 years, we are committed to building stronger, safer, and more resilient communities around the globe. To us, giving means more than writing a check. It means combining employee skills, passion, and time with our logistics expertise, our assets, mainly transportation, and the charitable donations to make a measurable difference in society. And the work we are doing consists of several elements. So we are dedicated to ensuring that communities are better prepared to overcome the inevitable challenges that disasters bring through capacity building. During times of crisis, UPS responds quickly and engages stakeholders in the response and recovery process. Through our public-private partnerships with the United Nations and preeminent humanitarian organizations around the globe, we contribute our thought leadership and logistical expertise by optimizing, innovating, accelerating, and transforming supply chains to help solve some of the most complex challenges the world is facing yet. So you can easily see there is a consistent program behind what we are doing. Just for instance, we offer skill-based volunteering as well, and we are working in the UN's logistical emergency team, LET. Just, you know, to give you an overview, just a couple of figures, just fresh from the press, not even released yet, but in 2016 we have responded to about 20 major world disasters. We have 8 loan managers currently out there helping humanitarian organizations. We have training sessions in disaster preparedness training, 49 of them we have done in 2016. Close to 6,000 disaster volunteers provided with tools and equipment by Toolbank Disaster Services mobile trailer, and we had about 468 shipments that we transported across 53 countries as part of our in-kind support. This is just an example of what we are doing, and it sounds big. However, we feel proud in what we can do, and what is most relevant as well is that our employees are feeling proud as well, that the organization is providing so much help for those that are definitely needing it more than most of us. Now, why do we think the award is important, and why did we choose to sponsor this award? We believe that business is in a very unique position. We need to play a leading role in providing for humanitarian needs. We have the reach, usually we have the resources as well. We have the local knowledge because we are at the spot, and we have big project management skills. And we clearly have our own incentives to invest into health and well-being of people and communities where we do business. And those are our partners, those are our employees, those are our customers. So at the end of the day, if they are healthy, we are healthy as well. But we need more. That's the problem. We need more engagement, we need more activities, we need more cooperation. And by showing other companies what we are doing, and especially what others can do, small and big, what type of very unique, innovating ways companies are going to help and mitigate risk and respond and rebuild after a disaster, we hope we can inspire others to do more or to start engaging themselves. So that's the reason why we believe that this award is really relevant. We believe that every organization at the end of the day has the responsibility to ensure that future generations have equal opportunities to develop and to grow. And this is the future not of us alone, but it's the future of every organization that is doing business. It's the future of the workforce, and it's the future of the customers as well. That's what we have to keep in mind. Therefore, we believe that this award is good, and it provides you as well a lot of visibility. If you are big or if you are small, doesn't matter. And the motivation why visibility for you might be relevant might be very different. But at the end of the day, visibility for business organizations usually is a good thing. Now, what is really relevant from writing the application is that we believe that you should emphasize the future goal of your campaign as well as your campaign's achievement. Provide as many concrete and specific examples of success as possible, and explain clearly and succinctly your research, your planning, your implementation, and the measurement, very relevant, the measurement of the campaign or the ongoing initiative. It doesn't necessarily need to be very complicated, but should have that type of an element. Tell us everything, second point. Really highlight all the strengths and successes you can and include in the end benefit. Don't forget to tell us about other possible benefits that might have popped up after you started with a completely different plan in mind. Were there probably environmental benefits at the end of the day? Did it change the way your employees viewed CSR? As it is, for example, with UPS and the UPS Foundation, where the humanitarian work the UPS Foundation is doing really has an impact on the employees and the way people working for the company, employees working for UPS, think about UPS as a corporation. Think about it. Did it grow the business maybe, after all? And this is a very relevant point. Ask yourself, that's my third point, whether there is a tie to your business. I think it is very relevant. A really smart approach is one that is inclusive and that adds value to your business as well. So please describe that and think about it. At the end of the day, this is the most sustainable approach if it helps you growing. So closing my comments here, I would think talking to those who are probably preparing as well the work and getting into serious efforts to write down as described by my predecessors sitting here in front of the camera. It's a lot of work, I have to say. However, you know, it is worthwhile. That's what I'm thinking. Prepare an application for an award certainly, you know, takes a backseat to your boss' latest call, but the process of applying can be important stimulus to a program you probably are running. And the time is then well spent, because integration of disaster program into the core business can be challenging, and CSR professionals sometimes struggle to engage with many key functions within their companies, such as finance, strategy, and others. While an award is no substitute for consistent deep engagement with those colleagues, it brings visibility at least to a program and helps generate momentum for your program as well. In other words, the process is an opportunity to reach out to your internal partners and get them involved in preparing the application, the interview, or by participating in an award ceremony, where I hope I can see you back at that point. Win or lose, since the awards system typically are inspiring. So at the end of the day, whether you are winning or you are losing, so you are not winning, but you may be in the last, one of the last 3 or the last 5, it's a real reward, because you will establish your programs that you are working on in a much better sense. So thanks a lot for listening, and I would hand it back to you.
Perfect, thank you. And we really are so grateful to have you guests sponsoring this award, as they are fantastic leaders in this area, and act as a great sort of voices reason for us. So I think we now have Stephen Payne joining us from Unilever, and hopefully, if I do some magic tricks, I can hand over to him.
Hello.
Hello, Stephen. This is Stephen Payne, VP Sustainable Business and Communications at Unilever. I'm so glad that you could join us, and also thank you firstly for Unilever supporting this award and really driving our programme on the Sustainable Development Goals. So over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I've got a lot of feedback.
If we try and mute ourselves, then maybe that'll be slightly better.
That seems to be all right. Okay. Well, thanks for the opportunity to have to talk with you about Unilever. I don't know if anybody knows Unilever, but basically this is a 50 billion euro business with about 170,000 employees across 190 markets. It sounds very big, but our purpose is very simple, which is to make sustainable living commonplace. And the cornerstone of our strategy is something that some people may have heard before, which is the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, which really guides all that we do on this agenda, which is why we're very proud to be able to sponsor this or support this this award. As I say, the ambition of the business really is to decouple our growth from our environmental footprint and to increase positive social impact. So this is highly relevant, but it's not only relevant to our business. We feel that it's relevant to all businesses now, and I think Hans-Peter before me was talking a little bit about that in terms of it growing the business. So the Sustainable Living Plan has 3 big goals: to improve the health and well-being of 1 billion people, to halve the environmental impact of our products, and improve the livelihoods of billions of people, and that's most notably by sourcing all our agricultural raw materials sustainably by 2020. So whilst it's a very large company, whilst we have a very, very long supply chain, we tend to look at this in a much more holistic way, and to work so that we can provide real benefits through our products to people, but also to the planet. And this award really is recognizing the innovation which is going on now in business around development generally, and all of the achievements which is going on in that space. And since the development of the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan over the last sort of 6-7 years, we've taken action on a number of fronts, and I'll just highlight a couple of them which indicate the progress we're making. We've got about 50 time-based targets, and we've made progress on more than 80% of them. By the end of 2015, we helped around 482 million people improve their health and hygiene. We've enabled around 800,000 women to access initiatives that aim to develop their skills. We've helped 2.4 million smallholder farmers and small-scale retailers enabled to access initiatives aimed at improving agricultural practices or increasing sales. And we've still got lots to go, lots to achieve in terms of reducing the environmental impact, not only in those areas where we can control the process, but also in the homes of our consumers, which is altogether more difficult. But we have reduced the waste footprint by 29%, and most recently, a couple of days ago, we announced our commitment to ensuring that all our plastic packaging waste is fully reusable, recyclable or compostable by 2025. So you can see that we're really trying to build the whole sustainable living agenda into our business strategically, and also to our brands. And increasingly now we talk about brands which are sustainable living brands, and those are brands which have a distinct sense of environmental or social purpose, and also that contribute in one or more ways to the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. And we were very pleased to be able to announce last year that those brands were growing faster than the other brands. Now, we can't prove the causality, but you can see to the point around the growth of the business that it would appear now that consumers are far more attuned to the impacts of climate and are searching for more purpose-driven brands than ever before. In addition, ahead of the Paris Agreement, we announced our new goal to become a carbon positive in our own operations by 2030, and sourcing 100% of energy from renewable sources. And that really goes back again to the point that Hans-Peter was making about the benefits of global development, or the initiatives that companies can take to focus on improving business and making the world a better place. So increasingly, the business case for sustainability, I think, is taking over from the responsibility. Responsibility we all understand, of course we do, but how do we attribute economics to this? So increasingly what we're doing is to look at Unilever through the lens of growth, cost, risk and trust. So I already mentioned our sustainable living brands. By deepening brand equity around purpose, great example of how this is helping the brands grow, of lowering cost, cutting waste, reducing use of energy, the cumulative cost avoidance that we've managed to achieve since the Sustainable Living Plan was introduced is over 600 million euros through eco-efficiency in our factories. Again, less risk, more sustainable ways of doing business, more of the sustainable ways of using the commodities that we use help us future-proof the business. So that's another ingredient in looking at innovation and what companies can do. And also more trust. If we believe, as we do, that there are changes in consumer preferences, if sustainability drives choice, or is beginning to drive choice, or be a factor in purchase decisions, then trusted brands are going to be more powerful. What do those brands do? So there's a brand element in there as well in terms of activation. So all that's really adding up to a very powerful opportunity, I think, to be able to showcase through this award some of the features of what individual companies are doing around the whole social, environmental agenda. I hesitate to say CSR because I think increasingly now companies are moving beyond CSR to see how this really is now beginning to work. And probably a real example of that is the alignment with the SDGs, the Sustainable Living Development Goals, which we use internally linked to our brands. So if, for example, one of our food brands aligns with ending world hunger, it's very simple that the external agenda and the external debate is aligned with the internal debate. And people understand that very definitely what they're doing internally around developing brands with social purpose is helping to make the world a better place. And so there is a direct correlation between the activities of the business and the external agenda. And increasingly, through market research that we're doing, it would indicate to us that consumers are indeed at the tipping point of wanting to buy more sustainably. And so then how do we innovate product? How do we do things that enhances our reputation, builds trust in the brand, and partly, or in many ways, there's an opportunity through this award to showcase that kind of thing. So in terms of sponsoring the awards, I mean, we're delighted to be able to sponsor the awards. Also to inspire others to take the lead, to showcase what they have done, to provide a kind of platform for dialogue and partnership. Again, as Hans-Peter was saying, use the opportunity of the award to engage with internal audiences and cumulatively pull all that information together to create a narrative around the very real things the business is doing to develop the business, develop society, and also take the strain, as we know, away from the planet. Linked to an incredibly powerful agenda now. We're going into Davos. There will be the Commission report around business there, I know. And I'm sure that we'll be reading a lot more about the alignment of business and society over the next few weeks as those Davos debates develop. So what makes a winning entry? For me, I think it's something that, or a couple of ideas would really be around something that really changes the way your company is thinking or the way in which it's doing business, exploring new business models, accepting that perhaps the way we do things now isn't the right way, being a bit groundbreaking, being a little disruptive in the marketplace or internally, thinking the unthinkable perhaps. And also something that helps others follow, something that's shareable and scalable and makes a real difference. And again, something that, to the point that's been emphasized a couple of times really, around something supporting the business, helping it to grow, saving money, increasing trust, reducing risk, and generally improving lives. So the idea that one can do well out of doing good, I think is now being proven by many, many companies through their operations, through the engagement of particularly employees who really look for a sense of purpose in what they do, instead of a sense of adding value to what they do. So that I think is all I really wanted to say, but I would inspire everybody to enter and to think about the very really meaningful contribution they can make to this very important and timely agenda.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. That's a lovely segue as well into our two winners from last year for the International Development Award. And whilst I know it's a different award, it's still thinking about how you can use your business for good. So what I will do now, again, thank you. Please enter the Global Development Award. As Steve said, we are so delighted to have Unilever sponsoring us again as leaders in this agenda. But I will now pass you over to Butch from the Philippine Long Distance Telephone Company. Let me and hand you over. So you should be able to speak to us now, Butch. Oh, maybe not.
We are, Butch, just so everybody knows, is dialing in from the Philippines. So we are.
Yeah. Hopefully he's with us.
Shall we see if we can get Sultan and then pop back to Butch? Butch, I'm sorry that we can't hear you straight away. We'll see what we can do our end and try you in a few more minutes. But if we just invite Sultan to take the stage and see if you hear him, just bear with us.
Sorry, technical issues is the.
So I wonder whether. Hello?
Yes. I am here.
Fantastic. So are we speaking to Butch or Sultan right now? I'm ever so sorry.
If it is Sultan at the moment.
Hello there, Sultan. Lovely to have you with us. This is Sultan from IDT Labs as the Chief Technology Officer. Would you like to go through the application that you made last year and the reasons why you applied and some of the top tips for the people who are dialing in at the moment?
Sure. I would love to. Firstly, a brief about IDT Labs and what we do. We are a relatively very small city for the startup based in West Africa, and we've technology-based solutions to social and economic challenges we see in the societies we find ourselves. A few moments ago, it's a relatively very small company. We have about 20 and during the Ebola epidemic, we realized how much of a problem the non-payment of aid to the Ebola response was become. And the Ebola response workers were basically the frontline workers, the people at the treatment centers, the people ensuring that chains of transmissions were being chased down, and the boots on the ground. And as an incentive, for the increased risks that they were taking, not just the government, but the three affected countries, along with international development partners, decided to introduce the concept of hazard pay. And it was meant to give them incentive and enable frontline response. But it was quickly evident that because the program was being managed badly, because the people were not being paid on time, because there was so much systemic corruption throughout the entire program, that it was becoming a major constraint to the ability of the government to respond to the epidemic. Health workers were striking, dead bodies were being left on the road. The disease was spreading during that period faster than the entire the entire period of the epidemic. So we realized the problem being caused by this, and we dropped all our paid engagement at that time, and started work on solving this, and we started work without even been sure of whether or not we would be paid. We built in between 2 weeks to a month. We had a payment system up. We had gone around to each and every health facility in the country. We verified each and every Ebola response workers, making sure that these people, the people who were to be paid were getting paid, and some, the BTCA, the Better Than Cash Alliance, basically an arm of UNCCDF. They commissioned a report that showed that as a result of some of our work, we saved the government $10.7 million. It might sound small it might sound small, but to put that in context, it's about the budget of the free health care initiative back here that caters to about 1.7 million children and 250,000 pregnant women. So that's a brief overview of what our program was, and why we decided to enter. We wanted to share the story with the world. We wanted other people not to just realize what we had done. A very young team, everyone purely look at the content, but we also wanted to share some of the lessons we learned from this, and the BITC has it has proven to be, well, winning the award was a very interesting platform to do that, and some of the effects of some of the good things that has happened to us after winning the award. We've managed to raise about 500,000 pounds in funding. We have been able to attract even more talent. We have more technical people wanting to join the team. We now have a top of the line female CEO on board, and it gave us, it authenticated us in the minds of back home, because unfortunately we come from like I mentioned, we are a very young team, and we come from a culture where nothing is expected from young people. So it helped a great deal to authenticate what we're doing and what we can do, and as a result, I, Son Hernan, have been, since then been invited to to several working groups at the central bank. I have recently received the award of a Queen's the Queen's Young Leaders. So my advice, when it comes to completing your app application is simple. Tell your story as tell your story as it is. Have the you have to put on paper why your program is unique, and some of the impacts of your program. I think I will stop there now.
It's such a fantastic story that you can tell, and the work that IDT Labs did. So thank you for sharing that with us and sharing your top tip of telling a story as it is. And that's exactly right. Please, don't lie or embellish, because when it comes down to it, we just want to know. And as IDT Labs did, and as Sultan's just explained, it was really an exemplary project, and they really stepped up to the mark to make sure that these healthcare workers could get paid. So thank you for sharing that with us.
One of the things that I loved that you shared there, Sultan, was what it's meant for IDT Labs as well. So talking about the new talent you've been able to attract, being able to, including the CEO, looking at the awards that you've personally got and also the organisation has, and really showcasing how your reputation and your brand across your country has really grown as a result of the work that you've been doing. So thank you so much for dialing in to take the time to speak to our audiences. We have Butch Melly, who's the president of the aviation division at PLDT and the president of the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation. Sorry, Butch, I know that you've been on the line for a while. We're going to try again to get you to share your story about the work that you've been doing in the Philippines. So I'm hoping that we can hear you loud and clear. Butch, can we hear you at all?
Okay, hopefully, I've just changed this over, so hopefully now I can hear you.
I'm conscious that we are already run over, and it's such a shame that we can't have Butch tell the story of PDRF. And I appreciate that people have been on the line waiting for a while. As we've said, we will be sharing the recording of this throughout our networks. The deadline for the application is the 10th of February. Danielle and I will be contactable to share our thoughts about your initial drafts. We can have up to half an hour for us to be able to run through some areas you might like to expand on your particular applications. So please do get in touch with us. Talk to your partners as well. They're a great source, as Danielle said, of advice and understanding about the impact that your initiatives have made. I think we can hear Butch, is that right?
Yeah, finally.
Finally.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much.
The Philippines.
Hand over to you.
And while the interconnect, yes, I'll try to go through this quickly because I know people have been on the line for a while. But Philippine long distance telephone is one of the leading telecom companies in the country with fixed line and cell phone businesses. 2013 was a terrible year actually for the Philippines. We had 3 straight disasters, 1 month after the other. First, there's 3 weeks at a city in the southern part of the country, followed by a 7.2 magnitude earthquake. But the immediate disaster that we responded to, and the worst one of the 3, was the super typhoon Haiyan, the strongest storm to make land in the world. There were 6 to 10,000 dead, and it really devastated our network and our dealers. And the Philippine government at the time seemed overwhelmed by the whole thing, and that was one of the reasons we decided to focus on a private sector response to the catastrophe. But we realized we couldn't do it ourselves, and so we decided to bring together as many of the private companies as we could, and we revived the organization called the Philippine Disaster Recovery Foundation at the time. Now it's called Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, and we knew that the private sector had a role to play, and we thought it was important to be as inclusive as possible and to provide a neutral place so that it wasn't just us, but it included our fiercest competitive rivals, because at least that would show the country that when this tragedy happened, business could pull together and work together as a team, that we could compete fiercely outside in the commercial arena, but when it came to a disaster of this magnitude, we could come together for a common purpose. And why did we? And we were able to plug a lot of the gaps in when the government response. A lot of the government agencies could respond quickly because they were hamstrung by bidding rules and by a lot of bureaucracy. And so they asked us to undertake all sorts of things, including an emergency feeding program, and to help revive the local businesses in the area, because they said if they did it, it would take them a year to go back to Congress to get the money for it. We've also built the world's first national privately run emergency operations center, and that is running as I speak. Just had a flood in the city here, and we've become the organization we helped build, PDRF, has become a global model for local disaster response networks around the world. Now, why did we enter? Actually, we were undecided whether or not to enter the competition. It took us a while to cross that line, but we felt we had an exceptional program. And it's the first time I'd been involved in this type of competition. We weren't expecting to win because we realized it was a worldwide competition and we were going to be up against strong entries from all around the world. But when we did win, it was really a terrific feeling. It was like being at the Oscars that evening at the arena there in London, and I did get to meet the Prince of Wales, which is special. And now, how did we use the award? It benefited us both in terms of our external audiences and our internal public, the most important one, and those are our employees and the board of both PDRF and PLDT. And so we got quite a lot of, got a halo effect from it in terms of public relations, local publicity, and of course our employees were very much encouraged to volunteer in other programs of PDRF, and in actually disasters. The Philippines is one of the most disaster-prone countries in the world, so we're never run out of different types of crises. And this award, I think, encouraged a lot of our employees to join in and to pitch in. So, I think it's important to demonstrate the impact of your program on the community. I think it's important to and this is something we spent some time on. So it's important to show the strategic rationale for implementing the program. It's got to have a business rationale behind it, so that you're doing as
as Unilever mentioned earlier, the gentleman from Unilever, you're not just doing good, but you're also doing well. And so there's the business rationale behind the program is important to highlight. I think it's also important to your entry to show the level of employee engagement, and that I think that's crucial. So I'd encourage everyone. The last tip I'd like to mention is that demonstrate the show some testimony from the beneficiaries of the program. I think that's especially credible and important to the award. So I'd encourage everyone to enter. I think that other people will learn from you and from your program, and it was certainly one of the high points of my career at PLDT, and one of the high points of my life. Thank everyone. Thank you.
Oh, Butch, that's fantastic to hear, and it's great to see that since sort of relaunching PDRF, that it's just gone from strength to strength, and that staff are sort of ever more getting involved. I know UPS were telling me that they're talking about this, or you guys are going over as well to talk about this program in Davos and in Geneva over the next couple of months. So it is great to see that our winners are now on the sort of global platform sharing what it is that you've created and sharing that with others, because really that's what we're all about at Business in the Community. We want to drive and share these initiatives so that essentially all businesses are responsible. So thank you for that, and thank you for joining us today. I know you're over in the Philippines, and Sultan was joining us from Sierra Leone, so if there are any connection issues throughout today, thank you all for bearing with us.
And a big thank you from all of us at BITC, really, for both entering and for taking this time, both for people who contributed, Stephen from Unilever and also Hans-Peter from UPS as sponsors, and also Butch from the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, along with Sultan from IDT Labs, for contributing how you how you did the application, how you won the application, and what it's meant going forward. Danielle's just kindly popped on the screen our details. Do get in touch if you're thinking of applying this year. We've got our both mobiles and our email addresses, as we've said. The deadline is the 10th of February, so not long to go. We will be able to look at applications, your first drafts, and to give you some feedback for half an hour. So if you wanted to do that, do share it. And we really, really hope that you consider applying this year for a phenomenal, another phenomenal year, Responsible Business Awards and Business in the Community.
Perfect. I believe that is all from us. So thank you all for bearing with us. I will send around these slides so you've got them for your own reference points. And have a lovely rest of your day or evening, depending where you are in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Bye-bye.